Good afternoon, photography world. This is Matt Sweetwood, president of Unique Photo here at the Unique Photo Superstore in Fairfield, New Jersey. With me today, I have my friend Eric, technical manager, guru, what are you?
Technical specialist.
Technical specialist at Olympus, and we have a very exciting product launch today. It's the new EM10 Mark II, right? A camera that I've actually used myself, so I'm really kind of excited to see. I used the older version. This is my first touch with the new version, so I'm really excited to talk about it a little bit today. Just one complaint that I really want to make to Olympus before we begin the event is that normally when I have technical people on with me, they're not allowed to have better hair than me.
Oh.
Okay, but we're going to let that. So we're going to let that slide today.
Very good.
Because we have such a great camera. So let's sort of walk our way through the camera. So this is the second version of the EM10, right? The EM10, which was released how long ago?
That was a few years ago.
A few years ago. I think it was like 2 years ago, something like that. It seems like it's about 2 years. So we're excited about an update. Let's go through the basic features. What's the biggest news about the camera?
Well, primarily now throughout the OMD lineup. So this is the entry level into the OMD lineup. So you'd have this, and then the Mark V, or the EM5, and then the EM1. And now all of them have the best-in-class 5-axis image stabilization. So to have a camera this small yet this powerful, especially with low light photography, is substantial.
And I know that the 5-axis stabilization makes a big difference. We were sort of walking around New Orleans, a whole bunch of us with EM5 Mark IIs, and what I really find amazing about the camera is if you take the camera with that 5-axis stabilization, you can actually take a stabilized picture doing this with your hand. It's really kind of funny. It's sort of like a camera store trick here we'll do in the store when you want to sell the camera, is you go like that and you snap a picture, and the picture comes out in focus. So, you know, that 5-axis stabilization I think makes a really big difference. Also, it really, in some respects, allows you to shoot at a slower shutter speed.
Correct.
Right, which essentially, effectively raises the ISO capability of the camera.
Yes.
Right, because the sensor in this is a micro Four Thirds sensor.
Correct.
And one of the issues, obviously, is, you know, how well is it do in low light? But when you can reduce the shutter speed or you know, not have to shoot as high in ISO, which is a big factor of the 5-axis stabilization.
Yeah.
What else can we talk about this camera?
Viewfinder. So a major upgrade from the EM10 is going to be, it's now a 2.36 million OLED. The viewfinder itself has really been worked heavily as far as to get as close to an optical kind of look and feel. And with a simulated optical viewfinder mode that you can turn on and off, which increases the dynamic range, that also is just something that will increase the user's experience.
So I just want to let's walk our way through that. So it has a mode now that gives you more of a rangefinder feel, an optical feel.
Yes.
Which is really interesting.
Especially in backlit situations in certain areas where you don't want to be hindered in composition. So you want to have full access to everything that's happening in that, and you don't want to have dynamic range be a limitation.
Right, and the viewfinder, I was actually playing with the viewfinder. It is very fast. It was very bright, actually, when I looked in it. To me, that was really what I noticed right away, is that how bright the viewfinder is. Let's talk about the screen on the camera, right? The back screen on the camera. Let's kind of show everybody here as we're doing it, right? It has a articulating screen, right? Up, down, right? Ratchets out. Right, you can maybe see it, right? I don't know if we can see it here on the camera, right? You can see him in there. See how fast it's focus tracking on him, right? And it has touchscreen, right? So you can touch and shoot, right? Autofocus and shoot on the screen. Tell me about the screen.
So as far as you have an LCD 1040 as far as your resolution, very similar to what's on any in the OMD lineup. So this isn't a step down to get into this particular product. The touch to focus and different touchscreen options are, as far as speed and performance, on par than if you were actually using the shutter button.
I noticed that, by the way, as I just went to do it. It kind of surprised me.
It is extremely fast.
It focused and took your picture really right, as I touched the screen. Pretty amazing.
And we have a unique moment. There's a lot of people using multiple devices to capture photography, and using their phones is a big deal. So this is non-intimidating. If you want to shoot the same way you have with other devices, just touch the screen.
Right.
If you want to get a little more well-versed in photography, then holding the button halfway down, and functioning it that way, that option is there for you too. As well as the touch autofocus. So now I can actually use this screen as a trackpad to determine which autofocus point I'm choosing without moving my eye. So I don't even have to pull the camera away from my eye. I just use this to drop the autofocus.
Right, and I did that actually when I turned it around. When I touched it, as soon as I touched it, it actually focused and shot right on you, which was pretty amazing. And this has, and so if you touch your eye to the screen, right, it has eye activation. Right, we can show that to everybody here. So if you're looking through the touch screen, if you it just senses your eye as it gets close, and the screen goes on and off, which is a really excellent feature. I notice also this camera has a built-in flash, and the flash is operated in a pretty unusual method. Why don't you talk about that a little bit?
So as far as the on-off switch, you know, obviously we call back to our heritage with our original film OMD line, our OM line, and with this on-off switch, which just as far as the look and feel of it is quite fun. But when I slide this all the way up, that's where the pop-up happens. So this is the only one in lineup that will include a built-in flash. The others will include the flash in packaging. But this in particular, very, very simple, very elegant. It's there when you need it.
And I see it also has a hot shoe on the top, obviously, if you want to add an Olympus external flash. To me, though, the real story behind this camera is ultimately the size of the camera.
Correct.
So we call this an entry-level camera, but I don't really view this as an entry-level camera. For those of you that follow me around, as a matter of fact, I'll do a little plug right now. Let's do a little plug before we go on with the camera. So you can follow me at Sweetwood. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, all around. You can see a lot of the pictures I take are with Olympus cameras. You really enjoy that. You can follow Unique Photo at Unique Photo on Twitter and Instagram. And if you have any questions while we're doing this, you can just tweet Unique Photo at Unique Photo and use the hashtag #UEventLive, and we'll answer your questions at the end of the segment. So to me, one of the real features of this camera is the size.
Correct.
Now, I don't like to carry a lot of stuff around with me. I don't carry a Merce. I don't carry a bag. I don't like any of those things. I like it to be very compact. And if you look at this camera, this is really with the standard lens that comes with the camera. Look at how compact this is, right? And this camera actually we're holding right here actually has the grip. So if I show you the camera actually in its real size, I mean, I don't have huge hands or anything, but you can see it sitting in here. And the other thing that I like to do is this camera comes with a standard 14 to 42 lens, which in the 35mm world is 28 to 84, right? Which is very, very similar to the lens that you see on a traditional DSLR, right? So this is a Canon DSLR that's in about the same price range. And if you can see the size component, right? You know, I can make kind of a joke, you know, it's kind of like I'm carrying this guy with me, and this is a great camera. I'm not really saying anything negative about the camera, but to me, really look at the size of the unit, and you're having a camera which is, you know, really in the same range. And I mean, I would certainly rather carry this guy around with me. I mean, the compact nature. And the other thing that I do frequently is I upload to my phone. So this is Wi-Fi capable, correct?
Correct.
And how does that work?
As far as that's a touchscreen operation, I would just go on the back of the camera, I'd press the Wi-Fi button. There's a QR code you'd scan. Once that pairing is done, that operation is extremely fast moving forward.
Right, there's an app that you actually load on your mobile.
OI.share.
Right, it's OI.share.
And we're at the version 2.6, so we have been with that for quite a while, and it's now at, it is an impressive piece of software.
Yeah, I've actually used this app, and I have to tell you, I don't want to say anything negative about other manufacturers' apps, but I found the Olympus app to be at the top of the game. It really works consistently. I think, you know, the issues that people always face with Wi-Fi is the initial pairing and then the repeat pairing, you know, and that repeat pairing, if it doesn't go well, it's actually very frustrating. Particularly I'm out in the field, I like to social media my stuff, like I said, and I take a picture with the camera. To me, that's really a big deal. The other thing I'd like to talk about with Olympus is, so you have this, what you're calling an entry-level camera, which, and I don't even necessarily like that term, because for me, I can use any of the Olympus line, but I would prefer to use this camera because of its small size, once again. But you have all of the Olympus lenses available too, and I think a lot of people don't really understand the sort of the wide array of lenses that Olympus makes, and to me, some of the best prime lenses in the world, and now even phenomenal zoom lenses. So you can see on the table right here, we have out here, we have my favorite 75-1.8, right, which has an equivalent of 150-1.8. I've used that on the camera and gotten a beautiful bokeh on the thing. Why don't you take us through some of the other lenses that you got here?
Well, something you have on the table, this is actually an industry first. So this is a fisheye at 8mm, and that's an f1.8 fisheye. So that's actually a photography first.
Right.
And then likewise with Olympus Viewer 3, with one touch of the button, you can actually minimize the distortion if that's not something you're going for.
Right, I want to emphasize that's an 8mm fisheye. fisheye at f1.8,
Yes.
right? Maximum aperture,
1.8,
which is
extremely
really,
bright.
which is really spectacular. I will tell you that most of the prime lenses that I've used, I found to be very bright with Olympus, and I'm comparing those along lines. You have killer lenses.
Yeah, and my favorite has typically been the 17-1.8, as primarily lives on my camera. Ever since that one was released.
Yeah, and this lens is a really sharp lens. I know a lot of your shooters are using this lens. I know I'm actually friendly. I'm Facebook friends with Larry Price and Jay Dickman. Those are both Olympus visionaries, and they're Pulitzer Prize winners, and they're using that lens out there. So you have 2 Pulitzer Prize winners going out with these cameras and using the lenses, and I always like to sort of emphasize that for people who think that Olympus is not making cameras in the professional range. Once again, calling it an entry-level camera, but to me, this camera has professional grade to it. I mean, and look at the lens. This is a relatively new lens, right? So this is a telephoto lens. This is a 40 to 150.
40 to 150.
And what's the key aspect of this?
2.8, and this is just something that just still cracks me up. I'm a big geek for that. But this is
you want to do it again?
300 millimeter.
You can do it again if you want.
I can.
Perfectly okay.
So 300 millimeter f2.8.
Right.
So
2.8 through the entire range.
If you were to do a comparison in size and weight, there's actually a number of people that I see shooting with it. They remove the tripod collar. Because they're like, no. In comparison to what I was using, this is a handhold lens. This isn't one that needs a tripod collar. So I actually see people removing it all the time.
Right, and this is an 80 to 300 2.8 equivalent, and we know on a DSLR that lens is going to be large and heavy
pricing
and so on.
And everything. Yet this is focusing extremely fast. A lot of our lenses, as far as functionality, offer lens function buttons. That's totally customizable, and having the snap focus as far as being able to quickly get to manual.
So you have all of these Olympus lenses. I know there's a 25 millimeter 1.8, right? There's a 45. I'm just showing in the case behind you. They're all sitting back here. There's a whole assortment of Olympus lenses that go on this that really comprise what I consider a complete system in a super compact package. Now, if you might see, I'm sitting here. I'm holding sort of the camera in its silver version in the smallest way. But this camera right here actually has a grip on it, and this grip is like really sexy.
Yes.
Like I really don't want to. I keep putting that guy down. I know it makes the camera a little bigger, but here's a grip that actually goes on it, right? And you said this grip was really an inexpensive.
$59.99.
Right.
So very inexpensive. And then the biggest thing is when you have your battery compartment and your memory card slot in the same spot.
Yeah.
I need to be able to get to it quickly, and that little wheel, that takes some time. So this is a quick release. So all I would do is I snap that into position when I want to take that off.
Right, I just took it off, and you can see you can get at the battery door. That, by the way, to me, would make me use the grip, because one of the issues you always have with a grip, I like doing everything fast. If you have to unscrew the grip, and then you're standing there, you have your cell phone in one hand,
yes.
I have my coffee in another, maybe a pretty girl around my arm, okay, that's separate, and you're trying to take off the grip and replace the memory card or do whatever, or replace the battery, which is something that you're going to do if you're really shooting heavily. So to me, that's really a really excellent feature. Let's talk about frames per second.
8.5 frames per second. So as far as in its class, extremely quick. And one thing with that is, you can kind of hear. We can kind of hear how that's
let's do it. I'm
off.
going to work it out there. Let's see if I can do that with it. So if you hold it in, it's actually shooting like that. We're going to take a lot of pictures of you. I don't know if you could hear that, but it's actually shooting the 8.5 frames per second on there, which is really fast.
And then likewise, this has what was very popular with the EM10 Mark II, which is the silent shutter. So now I can do that same burst, but now it is completely silent, and there's a lot of things that are near silent or almost silent. This is silent shooting. Like there is no, right now I am shooting.
I hear nothing.
So that is a very important thing for especially weddings, events.
And let's be honest, there's a lot of sneaky photographers out there who like to take pictures.
It's a possibility too.
And don't really like to make noise. And it is silent. I actually have used this before, and it's actually a little bit spooky, because what happens is you press the button and you're not sure that anything's happened.
Correct.
You have to sort of, I don't know, for me, I have to keep looking down at the camera and actually trying to figure out whether it's actually taken a picture or not. And the other thing, I want to emphasize, I don't know if I really came across is that you're sitting here with a camera with a 40 to 150 and a small camera like that. You have a sports shooter's camera, and I know Olympus is not necessarily associated with sports photography, but to me that's a sports photography setup. You have a portrait setup, a street photography setup, all sort of built into the system.
Yeah, and with the speed of our autofocus, we are definitely something to consider for sports, especially when we have the brightness of lenses that we offer.
When people come into the store here in Unique Photo and they ask us, you know, I want the fastest camera, the fastest auto camera that I can get, Olympus always comes to mind as really one of the first choices. Those cameras are super fast, is why I really, really like them. All right, let's get to the most important thing about the camera, the price.
So as far as $649 as far as for the body, and that's available in the black or the silver. And then if you are interested in the kit with the lens, that's the 14 to 42. This is not a typical lens that we've included in the past. This is the 14 to 42 EZ. This on its own is a $350 product.
Yeah, and you can see how compact the lens is. I mean, you're sort of sitting there. This is the equivalent of a 28 to 84 lens, and you can see when it's off, it's in that position. And then, you know, in the on position, it's like that. So that's a really, and
it's
the
right lens.
It's almost
for a
like,
kit.
if I do my math really quickly, don't hold me to this, I don't want to get in trouble, but it looks like it's about half price if you buy it, right? If you buy it in the kit format. And this camera, the good news about this is you're going to be able to buy this at Unique Photo in the next week.